11 people were 4 minutes from landing. Then they vanished for 50 years. Their last message arrived loud and clear and made no sense. 7 letters, tapped out in Morse code by a calm, steady hand. A word that does not exist in any language. The operator on the ground asked for it again. It came back twice, identical. Then the sky went silent. No wreck, no smoke, no trace. Just one impossible word, STENDEC. And nobody could say what it meant, or where 11 people had gone. The plane was called Stardust, a bomber built for war, rebuilt for passengers, flying the England to Chile run for British South American Airways. Its captain, Reginald Cook, was a decorated war hero. All 5 crew were veterans. 6 passengers, each with a story. A king's messenger, carrying diplomatic mail for the crown. A businessman from Palestine. And Marta Limpert, a widow bringing her husband's ashes home. On the 2nd of August 1947, Stardust lifted out of Buenos Aires, bound for Santiago, but in its path stood the Andes. To cross them, the crew took Stardust up to 24,000 feet, above the passes, above the weather. For nearly 4 hours, everything was routine. At 5:41 that evening, radio operator Dennis Harmer tapped out a message to Santiago, arriving 5:45, 4 minutes out. And then, without a pause, his hand added one more word, STENDEC. In the tower, the Chilean operator froze. The signal was loud and clear. The word was gibberish. He asked for a repeat, STENDEC, STENDEC, then nothing. But trained hands do not tap nonsense. 5:45 came and went. No aircraft. Chile launched search planes. So did Argentina. The airline's own pilots flew grid after grid over the mountains. The head of the airline led a 5-day search himself. They found nothing. Not a wing, not a wheel, not one bolt. A radio amateur claimed a faint SOS. Hope flared, then died. A 4-engined airliner with 11 people aboard had not just crashed, it had ceased to exist. In the silence, the theories grew. Sabotage, whispered some. The airline would lose 2 more aircraft without a trace, and rumor fed on rumor. Others said the plane was destroyed on purpose, to burn the diplomats' secret papers. And that word, STENDEC, became a magnet. Why would a crew's final word be one that does not exist? UFO hunters claimed it as their own. A flying saucer magazine in Spain even named itself STENDEC. For half a century, the word survived while the plane stayed lost. 7 letters with no owner, no meaning, and no grave. Here is what you need to understand about 1947. Above the clouds, no pilot on Earth truly knew where he was, no GPS, no radar over the Andes. Navigation was arithmetic. Your speed times your hours flown equals where you are. Dead reckoning. That afternoon, a storm had wrapped the mountains in cloud from horizon to horizon. The crew could not see a single peak. They could only trust the math. And the math said, the Andes are behind you. But the math had been sabotaged, not by a person, by the sky itself. Something vast was moving against Stardust in the dark, silent and invisible, and in 1947 it did not even have a name. Nothing aboard could feel it. The engines ran perfectly. The instruments looked perfect. Every reading agreed. It was time to come down. And a wall of granite, higher than the plane could survive, still stood between them and the runway. Believing the crossing was done, the crew began their descent. Down through the grey, toward what the numbers promised was the Valley of Santiago. The wheels stayed tucked. The engines held their cruise. Harmer keyed the final message. Arriving 5:45, 4 minutes, and then those 7 letters, twice more, on request. In the tower, the operator logged the time and waited. Stardust came down out of the cloud. The valley was not there. 51 years later, in 1998, 2 Argentine climbers were working their way up a glacier on Mount Tupungato, one of the giants of the Andes. At 15,000 feet, the ice handed them something impossible: a Rolls-Royce aircraft engine, twisted metal, shreds of clothing, half a century old. 2 years later, an army expedition reached the site and the glacier gave up more: a propeller, landing wheels, one tire, still inflated, still holding the air of 1947. But the mountain was not finished. The wreckage answered the first question. It lay concentrated in one small field. A head-on impact, not an explosion, not sabotage. The propellers showed engines at cruising power. The wheels were still retracted. No emergency, no warning. They flew into the mountain, believing a runway was minutes away. But what had lied to them? Post-war science finally gave it a name: the jet stream. A river of air over the peaks, blowing against them at over 100 miles per hour. Invisible, unfelt, unknown in 1947. It had slowed the plane by a mile a minute, while the arithmetic insisted they were already safe. The mountain answered the second question. Stardust had struck a near-vertical snowfield, and the impact brought the snowfield down. An avalanche buried the wreck in seconds before the first search plane ever took off. Searchers flew directly over it and saw nothing but clean snow. Then the snow became ice, and the ice became a glacier, a slow conveyor, carrying the plane down the mountain for 50 years, and finally handing it back. The investigation cleared Captain Cook, and through DNA, 5 of the dead got their names back. Which leaves the word. When the case reopened, hundreds of solutions poured in. Hypoxia, an oxygen-starved hand, scrambling the word descent, its perfect anagram. Secret initials, a mishearing. Investigators found none of them convincing. The cleanest theory is also the humblest. In Morse code, STENDEC's exact dots and dashes, spaced differently, spell SCTIAR. The code for Santiago's airport, plus the word over. No mystery, just a tired hand, running the gaps together. Maybe. But the man in the tower heard it 3 times. Loud, clear, identical. For 50 years, vanished was the wrong word. The 11 aboard Stardust were never nowhere. They were exactly where the mountain caught them. 4 minutes from home, held in ice that does not forget. The glacier answered every question we asked of it. Where? How? Why? It returned the engine, the tire still holding 1947's air, and 5 names to 5 families. Only one thing never landed. We know every dot and every dash of STENDEC. We know everything about it, except what it meant. The mountain gave back the plane. The sky is still holding the word.